You see, Harold has diabetes, and it's all because of Agent Orange. Harold couldn't get to his VA doctor's appointments because they were unable to carry him down the steps in his wheelchair. So we built a ramp for Harold. And just like that, Harold's life changed.
Joining us now is the woman who made that story possible, Francesca Di Paola, CEO of the nonprofit Homes for Veterans. Francesca, thank you for joining us. Give us the background of that story.
Chanel, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. So we helped Harold. He was a Vietnam veteran from New Jersey who needed his leg amputated due to diabetes. And because this wasn't a combat-connected injury, he couldn't get the help he needed from the VA. He actually couldn't even get out of the house to make the VA doctor's appointments. So that's the exact kind of demographic that we serve. Those veterans that, for whatever reason, fall through the crack and just can't get through the red tape to get the help they need.
No, that's we have so many stories like that, especially for our veterans classes, right? Where stories like that are they're falling through the cracks. They don't fit the exact parameters that are needed to actually get official help, the kind that we actually pay our taxes for. And so when organizations like yours step in, you started this with your father, is that right?
Yes. So my dad actually started it in 2011, which I can't believe how long ago that is. And he never served himself. And I think, we were raised as a patriotic family. We were always raised, to have respect for our soldiers, our veterans. And so when he became older, he said, you know what, I want to do something to give back after the 2008 recession. And so he found this gap of veterans that were not able to get the things they need, living unsafe in their homes, going homeless. And so he just started it pretty much locally and then grew it from there. And then unfortunately, my dad got COVID in the very, very beginning when it was really horrible. And after 20 days in the hospital, I started to really take over. I was always kind of involved doing like social media events, but I really started to take over and I really thought he was going to come home. And then unfortunately he didn't. So my mom, who's the vice chair, said, I can certainly continue it.
As you have continued this mission, what have you found to be the most surprising element? What have you learned the most about as you have gone forward in this journey?
There's been so much. I think the need of veterans that are having difficulty getting their benefits, or the elderly veterans who don't really know how to go about getting their benefits. So they don't know how to use the internet. They don't know, what is available to them, or they just have a lot of pride. They don't really, the Vietnam veterans, they came back, they were treated horribly. And so they don't really want to go to the government for help. And so we do have a veteran on our board who has a TBI himself, who actually also helps with that as well. So I really learned, navigating the VA as an injured veteran, mentally and physically, is really, really hard. And they need more help than you would think.
And you provide some of that help. You provide some of that bureaucratic navigational assistance to some of these veterans.
Yes, we do our best to encourage them to get as many benefits as they're entitled to connect them to the right people, especially encouraging them, don't give up. If you're on hold for a long time, keep calling. There are a lot of things available. I want to make that clear, but it's getting them that's really difficult. And so we try to make our program as easy as possible. The application is very simple. We're small, so you'll get me on the phone, you'll get my mom on the phone. And it's a different situation when it's a private family-run organization.
It seems that if you were to ask most Americans if they had a choice as to where their tax dollars could actually go to help and benefit those in our communities and our societies that actually need that help, I think veterans would be on the top of that list. And so there are a lot of benefits being given to veterans through the VA, but as your organization rightly points out, they are falling through the cracks, and it's very difficult to navigate for some of the ones who are most in need. How ironic.
Exactly. And it's a lot of these projects that we're doing cost a lot. So we're not talking about a couple thousand. We're talking about, for example, Harold's project was around $10,000 for just the removable ramp. The HISA grant doesn't include removable ramps, but he rents. It had to be removable. The next project is for a female veteran who's young. It's an extremely complicated project. She lives on a hill. We're rebuilding her steps and adding a chairlift, and it's a $35,000 project. So we're not just, so it's a big burden on the government to try to figure out, okay, how can we allocate these funds? I get that. But my dad felt like if you served, you deserve the help, basically.
Where do people, how can people help the most in this regard? Is it through donations? Is it through volunteer help? Or is it all of the above?
Donations obviously help because the more we have, then the more we can do. And we move very quickly. So if we get in money, it goes right out, right to the project. So donations are amazing, and that would be a great help. Also, if anybody wants to connect us to their job or a sponsor or something like that, because we're still working on growing, I want to do more. We are national, so we can help anybody in any state. And so if there's any connection to help us grow in that regard, that would also make a huge impact.
When you're raising awareness for this, when you're raising funds, what are some of the hurdles that you face when you're approaching people to support this? I know there's normally a lot of support for this, but there's some pushback, is there not?
I would say, like you said, most people are very eager to help our veterans on both sides, no matter where you kind of stand virtually, politically. I think a lot of people have the misunderstanding that the VA just is going to do it all. Like, they should be going to the VA. Why should we help in private organizations? And like I said, I would never know really the depths of the difficulties of dealing with the VA if I wasn't doing this. I don't blame the public for assuming that. I mean, you would hope that, right? It's just unfortunately
right.
not.
I mean, walking into this interview, even I look at these stories and I think, well, gosh, why isn't the VA moving in? And my first assumption is simply they're either too slow or there's something else going on. But in your case, in Harold's case, I think you were saying that this was not combat related, so technically he was not eligible for that VA assistance, though he was a veteran.
Exactly. And like I said, the ramp had to be removable. They only do permanent ramp installation. So there's just those little things that if you don't know, then you wouldn't know. And we help combat injured veterans as well with other things, again, not covered by the VA. One story that I always tell is we helped a veteran in Nevada who, this was before the whole PACT Act situation, so it was a summer ago. He needed his rugs removed because he had an inoperable brain tumor and he had stage 4 lung cancer as a result of the burn pits. But as we know, that wasn't originally considered one of the illnesses. They just didn't consider that something that they could fund.
Right.
So
that was legislation that was recently pushed, I think, just in the last year.
Yes. And now, of course, they're inundated. So they're just working through, how are we going to sort through this? How are we going to help everybody? Thank God they did take a step in that direction, though. So it's a good first step. But literally the year before, we helped somebody he had all the paperwork on his kitchen table trying to figure out, how are we going to fund this? How am we going to do that? They weren't getting help.
That's extraordinary, and you're doing this as one family, one patriotic family that woke up and decided to give back. And I think those are stories that we crave now. It's stories that really, really speaks to the goodness of the American spirit. Francesca, thank you so much. Once again, what's your website so that we can, our viewers can visit and see how they can support?
We're www.homesforveterans.us.
Easy enough. Francesca Di Paola, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chanel. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great weekend. We're remembering our fallen soldiers this weekend. We also worked with veterans, that had family members pass away. And so we're very familiar with that awful sacrifice as well. So
well, God bless you and thank you. Yes, same to all our audience members. That's all the time we have. Remember to watch Weekly Briefing every Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, or you can catch the latest episode now on iHeartRadio. Remember to download OAN Live and watch One American News on your favorite streaming device. I'm Chanel Rion. Thank you for watching. Until next time.